Jonathan Mickles with the Strategic Multifamily Investing Podcast, and I have with me today Mickey and Sherry Patterson. How are you all?
Doing well.
Great.
Excellent. So listen, thank you so much for joining us. It is amazing that some people of your caliber will want to be a part of a small podcast like us, so thank you so much. So how did you all get involved in real estate?
Oh, this is what, early 2000s? You can kind of tell more about that, I guess.
Well, he kept trying to get me involved, and I ended up doing other ventures. I've owned a lot of businesses, and he went to Lifestyles Unlimited. And funny story, unbeknownst to me, many years later, we are at a restaurant bar. We're waiting for some friends to get there, and we start talking, and he mentions, well, the condo in Virginia, blah, blah. And I'm like, what condo in Virginia? And he's like, our condo in Virginia. And I'm like, what's it? Is that where your girlfriend lives? Like, what do you mean our condo in Virginia? Apparently we had owned a condo in Virginia for years that I didn't know about. So that was our first investment that he got through a group with Lifestyles Unlimited. And I guess just jumped in and did it. And somehow never.
To this day, I still think I told her.
That's something that I would remember. How would I not know that we had a condo in Virginia? Especially, I would have said, why are we buying something in Virginia? We live in Texas.
Right. I mean, so okay, how was that deal structured? Did you just go into your 401k and say, hey, here we go? I mean,
this will kind of play into with one thing we see with a lot of the investors and people we coach is that I was the typical engineer mindset, analysis paralysis. I'd been part of the Lifestyles Unlimited group for over a year and looking and constantly analyze. And then finally some advice one of the people gave me said, look, just find a deal, one that meets your numbers, and then quit looking, make the offer and move. And that way you just get out of the starting blocks, regardless of how it turns out, just get off of the ground zero. And so this one was a property that was kind of a turnkey offering, very much what Sherry does here with customers is a complete turnkey offering. You buy it if you need a rehab, manage it, and then just kind of be completely hands off. But I did use an IRA, so we used a self-directed IRA with that.
Okay.
And then and so that was our first kind of get into any of the stuff. And then after that, really,
hold on, did you even know that there was a self-directed IRA, Sherry?
I think I knew we had that, or at least I knew we had, 401k money, but I did not know anything about any of this. And
okay.
So yeah, it was quite shocking, and then, we were selling it and everything. And I'm like, and we talk a lot too. We have a really good relationship. So it's not like I feel like we keep things from each other, whatever. So it was very strange. But then years later, I did want to get into real estate, and I got on Bigger Pockets, if you're familiar with Bigger Pockets, and started learning everything I could on there. And again, kind of had the analysis paralysis like he had. And I was listening to a podcast that said, just do it. The best education, just, you could keep learning or just go do it. So the very next day I went out, I found a property and put a contract on it. And
now, were you a broker at this time, or were you just?
I was in the process of getting my real estate license.
Gotcha.
But didn't have it yet. And so I bought a house that was built in 1890. Probably should not have been your first flip.
Probably not. I mean, did it have historic covenants and things like that with it? Oh, okay.
No, but it did. Well, it did with that neighborhood. It had certain colors and certain things. So it did. It was in a historic district. And so a lot of work. But the good of that is I learned a lot, and I tell all my clients education is expensive, so I lost 17,000 on that flip.
Okay.
I did better on the next one, which was also a historic home. I only lost 12 on the second one.
Okay.
So I got better, and that's how I got started, then was doing my flips. And then I started the REI group I had done event planning in the past. So I was trying to bring people to me. I was like, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And back then it was hard to find any REI groups. Now you can throw a rock and hit one, go every day to one.
Yeah.
But back then I couldn't find any. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start a group. And my first meeting, I had 6 people at it.
Oh, wow.
little
Panera bread.
Panera bread.
Hold on. So okay, so let's talk about that then. For some people who are still looking for REI groups and things of that sort, Meetup I know is a really big thing. Were you using tools like that in order to start your REI group, or like?
I think I did put it on Meetup.
Okay.
Now we're using Eventbrite more,
Okay.
but yeah, find them at Eventbrite, find them on Bigger Pockets. I do post mine on Bigger Pockets also. So that's just look around locally to find them. But that's really, how you're going to build your network, and your net worth is around those people.
So how far after you did your first, or losing the first $17,000 in the first flip did you start the REI group?
It was within that
year.
Yeah, within that year. Yeah. So
Okay.
within a few months that I started it, and was funny because, in the beginning, the first people knew that I had no idea what I was doing. And that's why I was getting people together. But as
There
it
you go.
grew and I started getting more and more people, as I stood up to introduce the speaker that did know something, it was funny because then people assumed I was the guru because I'm putting on this event. So
Right.
people started contacting me to help them. So I had originally just got my license for us,
Yeah.
thinking that was going to save me money. Don't do that.
Don't do. Oh, okay.
Don't do that.
Okay. I've
Yes.
got so many questions. Pause. I've got so many questions.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, why not get a license? This is very interesting.
So if you're getting a license just for yourself, it's very costly. You have all your continuing education, which, by the way, teaches you nothing. And you have your local, state, and national affiliations that you have to pay for. You have other fees and stuff that you have involved. So that little 3% that you're saving on one side or the other or both still does not add up for all the time and the money involved. And it also puts you at more of a risk with your responsibility in your deals.
Because
so
you have
now
to
you're a
disclose.
licensed professional that you should know better. So if you do something wrong, then you now not only have, if you're not licensed, you do something wrong, well, everybody's getting mad. Maybe some people lose money and this and that. But if you have a license, well, now it can be literally a felony.
Yeah, big lawsuits.
Yeah, big lawsuits involved. So if you plan to be a real estate agent and help other people, then by all means get a license. But don't get a license for your own deals. There's no reason to do that because, like I said, it gets you more. Hire the professional, pay the professional if you need one.
Excellent. So while Sherry was working on the $17,000 flip and starting the REI, were you doing more underhanded deals there, Mickey? I mean, I'm just joking with you, but
Yeah.
were you in North Carolina now? Were you in DC?
Yeah, I appreciate you backing that bus up over me, Jonathan. No, so really a lot of that time was I would help out a little bit where she was doing something, but even, I mean, oddly enough, even a lot of the physical construction stuff, she's in there breaking out stuff, opening things up and getting her hands on with all that.
Wow.
A lot of there, I was still working a traditional W-2 environment. We talked briefly about that. And so really I was just focused in that world and then educating myself as well with her, but more on the investment side and looking for properties. Most of the work I would do, and even until real recently, was really in the underwriting, the analysis of the deals, kind of just what works from a number sense. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how we teamed together. She was always the visionary on the projects, could walk into a space and see, okay, well, I could do this with this. I could cut out this wall and, make all this work and all that. And then it was just, okay, do the numbers work? Does it all make sense? And then,
myself and my clients.
Yeah.
So he ran the numbers, he was my numbers guy to make the deals work, deals that we were doing. But then also, again, at this point, then I had, even still, there's still very few agents that do what I do. Mm-hmm. But back then there was even less because I only do investment real estate.
Right.
So I had a lot of clients, so a lot of deals. And so he was running all the numbers for everybody.
Were you involved in the CIAS at all? Certified Investor Agent Specialist designation for realtors. Okay.
No.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, that's Alex Sharfin and the Sharfin Group put that on back in about the 2010 era, and it was in Austin. So thought maybe
okay. No,
okay.
No. Cool. But yeah, so like I said, that's just all I focused on. And he was still doing his daily work. And then as we started growing and the market shifting, mm-hmm. We have continued to pivot with our deals and going from, again, then we were doing flips and getting some buy and holds to then buying some larger multifamily or even smaller multifamily. You know, we had 7-unit and then, you know, so larger. And then we got into some syndications. Again, a lot for my REI group, because I've got a lot of people that want to invest, but say, you know, I've got $20,000. $50,000, whatever it is, it's still hard to go and buy a single family with anything like that.
Right.
And a lot of them are newbies. So in order to help them learn, I started trying to put together some deals that they could invest in together and buy together. So
Right.
we've bought RV parks and some other things. Right now we're doing some land development, looking to put some funds together for some different things, again, so that we can pull people together. I feel like we can do a lot more together as a community than what we can accomplish individually. So then that's when he started doing it more full time, was to start finding us some deals that we could syndicate and that we could bring more people in.
Yeah.
And
so you grew to
doing
the point,
fundraising.
you grew to the point that you no longer now have a W-2, Mickey, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So your communication is impeccable. This is the first, well, I think the second husband-wife couple that I've actually interviewed, and that's great. What is the secret to your success? Because, you know, a lot of times, you know, I meet people and they're like, well, how do I get my spouse involved? And it's one of those things where, yeah, we did buy something in Virginia or whatever. Well, how do you navigate that, you know, so that, you know, your spouse, you know, is on board? I mean,
Well, I
give us
yell at him a
some advice.
lot.
She's not wrong.
Say that one more time.
I yell at him a lot.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
But you
Well,
are the public face of the organization, and he's the numbers person. So
yeah,
I guess that it kind of works.
and kind of the irony of that, it's like within a lot of our syndication side is it'd be a little bit, I won't say a little bit the other way, but I'll generally be the one kind of out at some of the meetups and doing those things. And
Okay.
she's got so much going on because, as she mentioned, she runs the largest REI group here in the DFW area as well, and organizing mastermind groups with that, and really about just that educating and pulling people in. But to go back to your question, I think one of the things that helps us anyways is that we do a pretty good job of kind of managing our lanes. Like she mentioned before, I focus on the numbers, the feasibility of that part. She focuses on the feasibility of, well, tenants like that. Can I get 1,200 a door for this? Or can I get 1,000 or 1,500? What can I realistically get because of I know the market part. I can then look at the numbers and say, okay, well, unless we're getting this, it doesn't work. But we have complementary skill sets on that. And then even if, you know, and I talk to other people in similar things, even when they overlap a bit, still being able to kind of divide those out, check in with each other. But I think in ours, what works out well is we kind of take care of your stuff, I take care of my stuff, and then we kind of almost treat it like two separate pieces.
Gotcha. So you've had a lot of learning, and you know you've been doing this all throughout the early 2000s into the crisis of 2008. Were you all affected at that time, or how did you all navigate?
We weren't heavy into the multifamily and investing quite yet. At that point, again, we were just doing small stuff for ourselves and the flips, and again had a condo in our townhouse, whatever it was, in Virginia. So that's all we had going on at that point. So no, we weren't hindered by that. But again, I still spend the majority of my time working for other clients, finding
Okay,
them
still do.
properties, again, turnkey. Of basically people call me and say, you know what, I've got $300,000. And I'm like, oh, and they live in LA. Or for some reason, I have a lot of people in San Jose. But, you know, they call us, this is what I have. What should I do with it? And so I educate them. I help them find deals, a turnkey property where then here, but again, we buy it. If it needs work, I do work to it. Then I do the property management on it. So again, whether it's multifamily or whether they're wanting to do flips or whatever they're wanting to do. So I spend a lot of my time doing that. He spends his time finding more of the bigger deals for our syndications and running the numbers and stuff on that. So he is helping me with property management now and kind of taking some of that off my plate. But like I said, we basically have two completely different jobs.
So let me ask this question about property management. You mentioned that you're into that space. Why property management? A lot of times in syndications and other things, they outsource that to other property managers, and they do more of the asset managing, making sure that the property
Well,
manager is, turning the plan.
so I don't manage any of our, or again, big, large multifamilies. And it started, if I could go back for 10 years ago, whenever it was, and that first investor that did buy from out of state and we bought it, and he said, would you manage this property for me? The answer would be hell no.
Right.
But
Exactly.
I thought, oh, okay, again, I was still new with having my brokerage and whatever, it's extra income. All right, yeah, how hard could it be? I'll manage your little fourplex or whatever.
But I mean, in fairness, I mean, one of the things that I think really did enable the growth of the brokerage business for, and ultimately the whole investment group and the group we work with, is that she did offer a turnkey service. So people could come and say, like the people there in California she mentioned, where they could say, I've got X dollars. I'd like you to find me a property and tell me what it's going to cost to rehab it. Hey, I may hire your contractors. I may get you to go ahead and do the rehab. So she had several customers where they would literally say, go find it. You do the rehab, you do this.
Well, that's all
I
of
mean,
my clients. So that's
Oh,
all
really?
the properties that I manage, with the exception, I would say, of less than 5. I sold that property. So
Right.
I'm not out really marketing that I do property management. I'm not a property management company. It's just a service that I provide to my clients.
There you
We
go.
still manage way more doors than I would like to.
Okay.
But again, I sold them. So, I mean, they're all my clients. And then the good thing is, then we keep them for a few years and then I sell them again. The funny thing is, I've got several properties that I have sold multiple times within my group. So I still manage it. So I'll sell it from one of my investors and sell it to another investor, and I still just keep managing it.
So,
But yeah, go ahead.
there's some brokers, who are a little bit concerned about doing property management because there's a risk there. And then there's sometimes some clients, say, well, I don't want to deal with a property manager who also sells and things of that sort. So did you ever have any of those kind of concerns that come up?
I've had a couple. I've had one, actually two clients that I'm aware of that ended up terminating our property management contract. And I haven't lost any others that I'm aware of. Some of them I would like to lose, but they're a lot. But I've had a couple that, for whatever reason, then after they had me managing and everything, then decided they wanted to keep their real estate agent and their property management separate. I don't know what difference that makes, but I have had two, I believe, that have ended up
Okay.
telling me that and going with a different property manager.
So then you have seen it all, because initially you said no to property management, but then jumped in and you're head over heels in property management. What are some of the horror stories or risk warning type things that you would have for people who are maybe looking for property managers to make sure that they are finding the right one, and or if somebody's interested in potentially doing the property management? Well, what are some of the concerns and things that you see?
Within a property management company, or I guess even if whether you're doing it yourself, you're having somebody else do it. The biggest thing is the background checks and completely checking out your tenants, because there is nothing worse than getting a tenant in there that doesn't pay and then trying to get them out and having to go through, of course, every state is different with their eviction process, but it is a pain and it costs a whole lot of money. And also, I think that a bigger company sometimes is better than an individual like myself. And I know I'm kicking myself in the tushy not getting new business, but as an individual myself, I have that bleeding heart. So that tenant's like, well, I just had a baby, and then, I ended up losing my job because I had complications and didn't get back to work, and now I can't pay my rent. I promise you, with my tax return, I'm going to pay, and blah, blah. So I listen to that and I'm like, okay. And so I think they're on a payment plan and I let them get away with that. And then when it's time for them to pay, they still don't pay again. Now it's been 2 months and they haven't paid their rent. Now the owner's really mad because he hadn't got 2 months of rent. And now by the time we start filing the eviction process, I mean, that's another month, plus all the fees involved with the eviction process. So it's costing them thousands of dollars. Whereas I think with maybe some larger companies, they don't have that. It's all just systems in place. You pay your rent on the 1st, if you don't pay on the 3rd, the late fees start on the 4th. If you hadn't paid by the 10th, then you're getting your eviction letter. And so that's what we are trying to put in place now. We have a VA that is handling a lot of the day-to-day processes for me. And so I think that's something that you really need to be strict with. Like, I'm sorry, you know, Mrs. Jones, I know you've been with us for 3 years or however long it's been. They've been a good tenant or whatever. You still can't, it doesn't matter what their story is. It doesn't matter what their situation is. You can't be empathetic with them. You know, this is a business.
That's hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
But now the owner can't pay the mortgage because you're not collecting rent. So that you need to have strict guidelines and dates set up initially and let them know when they move in, you know, that's on your lease or whatever, that these are the guidelines and this is what you've agreed to.
Understood. So
and then stick to it.
Yeah, and I have another question that I'm gonna come back to there, but what's coming up now for me for you, Mickey, in pivoting, you mentioned that you're working on the larger deals now for the syndications, et cetera. And so, you know, we've seen interest rates rise over the last several years, you know, multiple times.
It's
And
pretty
there's
painful. It's pretty painful.
Yeah. And so what are you seeing right now as we're recording this in early 2024? What is your outlook for 2024?
Oh man, guessing at the outlook is kind of a fool's errand right now, I think. But I'll give you kind of what the guidelines I kind of been gathering from some of the other people, and the challenges that I think are coming forward is that one is the amount of debt, and I can't speak to the Virginia area or where you're at, but here in Texas, for example, I think the numbers I heard was somewhere around $24 billion of bridge debt was coming due in 24. So there's a giant amount of debt coming due that people have to refinance. They're going to restructure the loan, sell the properties, whatever the case is. But those people had done their underwriting with a much better interest rate in mind. And so with a lot of those people, the ability to continue running that property effectively is going to be really difficult. And so I don't know that we're going to get a lot of crisis sales, like, you know, and people just kind of this, you know, just market sale, getting rid of everything. But I think we're going to have a pretty good suppression in the prices through the middle part of the year. If we get some rate reduction, which would speculate that we would with the kind of election year and a lot of promises of, you know, things coming down, we might see a little bit of a growth back in that. But right now, the deals, or at least the deals, I've probably looked at damn near 100 deals that I've underwritten, and I think we found 2 that the numbers worked and put offers on. And in these offers, we were still pretty conservative, and, you know, some of the other terms we couldn't go with. But there's so many deals that are just not penciling out. So you still were
outbid on those 2?
Not so much. One was one of those, for example, we actually had a good bid. Our bid was appropriate. They were wanting a little bit more hard money than we were willing to do. And so we just took a conservative stance, and they're like, well, we're going to take a lower offer, but they're going to offer more hard money. I was like, okay, maybe it's, you know, that's great.
I'm not willing just to lose that much money up front.
Yeah, I better say,
when you hadn't been able to do any inspections or anything, I'm sorry, I'm not just giving you like $100,000 for you. Here you go.
Yeah,
right.
And that's hard in multifamily right now because that's what they expect.
Right. And especially in your market where they're going hard on the EMD day one, right?
Yep. Yeah, there were several of those that were just, and that's the way this case was, that the other offers were hard money day one on offer. And I think the other challenge is, I mean, obviously with the lending rates, but then even finding you don't have the competition with the lenders as well. Because I found several with, I'm going to say small multifamily, 40, 50 unit type multifamily. Banks aren't even penciling them. They just say, don't even bring it to me. We're sitting out for the next 6-9 months. We're not looking at multifamily. We're not even going to deal with the asset. And these are lenders that we've worked with quite some time. I mean, obviously not all of them,
sure,
but they're being so particular with their underwriting. It's hard to get them. I think the one I just got quoted on earlier today was they wanted a debt coverage of over 1.3. We're used to see stuff in 1.2, 1.25.
Yeah.
And that's at a 65% loan to value. And
wow. So you have to bring a lot of money to the table. So, you know, you have 8,000 or so in your REI. Do you have a lot of dry powder sitting on the side potentially for what could
I wish
potentially?
we did. You know,
Okay.
it's, I think that some of them have more money than what they,
I think that there's probably, I think the answer is probably yes. I think there's the interest rates more than anything right now have people scared to hold off. And this will kind of go to one of our pivots, which was a little bit into some development stuff. But
Okay.
I think there's a lot of people right now that are scared off with multifamily. You know, so there's some of the single family stuff they're still dabbling in, but most of the people for better returns, they've been looking at multifamily, and they're just kind of taking that mindset of, you know what, I'm just going to sit out for 6 months, a year. I'm going to wait and see what happens. Let the dust settle, and then I'm going to come back into it. And so we've been pivoting ourselves and even taking that approach to some of those same clients with development or other land type deals where it's, hey, here's a deal that you can get in and out in say 12 months, maybe 18 months. So while you're sitting and waiting, don't have your money sitting and waiting doing nothing either. Here, you know, here's a project you can get involved in. It's not as affected as much by the interest rates because it's not this long-term rate. So that's one thing that we've been looking at pivots and then trying to educate and pull some of the investors along too.
and if people are looking for multifamily, they can start looking at the banks because there's a whole lot of foreclosures going on right now.
There you go. That's what I was about to go there. I had a nitpicky thing that I was going to ask. In your underwriting criteria, were you?
Sure.
And it just went in my head and out of my head. Don't worry about it. We'll come back to it. But you mentioned,
was it looking for a really good deal in Virginia that we don't have to tell Sherry about?
Hey, Virginia's where it all started for you guys, right? So it's not bad, not bad. No, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the developments, you know, because I've known some people made a pivot to storage, self-storage, and things of that sort. But did you, and some also have gone to build to rent. What type of development projects, if you don't mind, are you all looking at?
Not a huge amount of vertical right now. And I say vertical for the people listening, is not a lot of buying the land and then building, you know, 3, 4 stories, or actually building the structures. We've been looking right now at some infrastructure development deals, really for the nature of just getting in and out in a shorter time frame. But we've been looking at all the asset classes, building out short-term rental communities or RV parks. That was actually an area we pivoted to a little bit ago and just acquiring RV parks, and that's been pretty decent as well. So I think that from a development standpoint, we're still a little agnostic, much like the other cases. If it makes sense for the build to rent, I think the challenge with most of those is what can you get entitled for, and you're working with the county. And again, for the people listening, the entitlement is just getting the approvals for what you want to do. So you may think that was a great spot, I'm going to put an apartment complex there. And the county says, no, you're not.
Right.
Or there's no sewer infrastructure that can handle it, or whatever the case is. Or if there is, but it's a mile away and it's going to cost you $1 million to bring the water in. And so I think some of those really go back to figuring out, well, what can we entitle? Can we just do the horizontal and sell? Be a shorter term? That's kind of where our personal focus is a little bit more. But we're looking for deals with all of them. And that's kind of what we've been talking about, just try to find either our own deals, but then also partner with others via different fund offerings to help fund and facilitate other operators who may have a good deal going on.
So Sherry, you mentioned earlier, thank you so much, Mickey, that, you know, you had people calling you from California with lots and lots of money. How are you building trust with people to come to you to say, look, I want you to find it, renovate it, and manage it for me? What are some of the things that you're putting in place to build trust so that people are picking up the phone and calling you from California?
I think a lot of it, my business does come from word of mouth. And now, again, I've been doing it for a long time. And as I said, there's not a whole lot of people that do what I do. So I get a lot of, oh, I'm so-and-so's friend. So I get a lot of referrals. Again, I'm also very active on Bigger Pockets. So, and I'm a, I guess, preferred agent on Bigger Pockets. So people know, and they can get on there and see how many votes I have. They can see my comments and how much I post on, and giving people advice on the forums, and how much time I spend on, again, education and helping others grow. And I also do a lot of social media posts and ads and everything on, again, different education. So trying to help people learn. And again, with the REI group, so I do a whole lot of educating, probably way more than I should for the no money that I make off of it.
I've told her on numerous occasions she's the hardest working person for no money.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, it's coming to you, I guess, with the referrals and the people are picking up.
It does.
It does. It comes, and that's what I feel like. I feel like, the more I spend trying to help this person become successful, because I've had so many investors that have started with me with their very first investment and then have succeeded me now. And I love seeing that. I've got several people in my REI group. I've got a young couple. They graduated from A&M here, and when I first met them, they were recently married and just got their little W-2 jobs and everything. And because they didn't have kids, they could house hack. So I found them a fourplex in Arlington that they lived in one unit. They did short-term rentals in the other 3. And I tell you what, those kids now, and they still come to the meetings and everything, I've loved watching their career grow. I think they have 27 now short-term rentals.
Wow.
They have done, I think, 3 or 4 now syndications of all large multifamily.
Wow.
And so she got her real estate license, and they're just, again, they're not even 30 yet, and they've already blown me away with the deals that they have done.
That's awesome.
So I love being part of that and seeing people succeed. So again, I think that just comes through when I speak to them. When I recently started doing the stuff on Bigger Pockets, and the guy calls me about getting leads on Bigger Pockets and stuff. I've always been on Bigger Pockets, but I hadn't done the agent stuff with them. And he said, so, it's X amount, it's 25 leads for X amount of money. How many of those leads do you think will become clients? And I was confused about the question. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I think on average, people get these 25 leads, they get, 3 or 4 deals out of it. And I'm like, 25. But
that's how many will be clients.
if I speak to them, they become a client, so I don't understand what is your question? Now they might not all buy today, because again, I'm getting, some of them are new, and talked to a kid the other day, he's 22, and I'm just excited he called me. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had been interested in real estate and investing at 22. So
right.
I can't wait to help him. So they may not buy today, but as I continue to work with them and send them deals or whatever, they'll buy eventually.
Right, because you're over delivering so that they're able to see the value that you're bringing. I think that's one of the things that those of us who are agents, I'm licensed still, the challenge is to make sure that you're providing value. And it's just not, okay, I'm just going to put you in a little drip campaign and never talk to you until you call me type thing.
Right.
So another question, and either one of you can answer this one. Since DFW is really a strict market in terms of trying to find a deal, you mentioned, Mickey, earlier, hundreds of deals that you've looked at, only 2 that you've made, real offers on. Are you looking at other markets other than just other verticals right now?
Certainly looking. We haven't been real aggressive out of state. I mean, Virginia is obviously good, but
keep coming back to that.
But no, I think we've talked to some people to partner, for example, or look at opportunities to partner with people in other states. We haven't seen a lot in those opportunities yet. We're open to that, but I think most of the stuff we've looked at around here, we've certainly seen things in secondary or tertiary markets around DFW. Okay. And so we're looking there. But we probably haven't done a huge amount of looking in some of the other congested markets, like down in Houston specifically. Austin's a little more challenging on the cost and deals, but we're certainly looking on the peripheries of DFW area. And there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of emerging market opportunities in those spaces as well.
Okay. Sherry, you were about to say something I think you were going to add on.
I don't remember what it was, but I do have a lot of my clients, again, they're looking other areas. Again, the young couple I was just talking about, most of their apartment complex are in Oklahoma. Okay. So, and then I've got someone else that is doing the motel conversions. And I think it's in Wyoming. I think. Yeah. And, so we definitely have other people looking outside of the Texas market, since Texas, where my license is, that's where I, obviously send them properties and where we look. But I'm open to, and I know I am also licensed in Colorado, but I haven't done any deals in Colorado.
Not yet. You never
Not
know.
yet, but I'd like to. I'd like to live there half the year, so
There
I'd
you
like to
go.
find some deals there.
So then in terms of how people get in contact with you, well, before I get to that question, I mean, you all have done so much so far. I mean, you have 8,000 plus in REI. You're doing property management. You're doing large multifamily. You're doing small multifamily. You're doing residential. You're doing fix and flips. You're doing all kinds of things right now. What, other than, trying to kind of time the market and see what's going on with the fallout of here of 2024, is there anything else that you may be interested in, or that somebody could potentially bring you as an opportunity that might be interesting?
I'm interested in mobile home parks. We've done the RV parks, and if I could go back and do it again, I would have done mobile home instead of RVs. And I think that even converting some commercial buildings, or a lot of these big around here, there's a lot of the big commercial buildings that they're building. I don't know who's moving into those things, but I think eventually we're going to have a bunch of them sitting empty. I would be interested in converting some of them to multifamily or into individual storage buildings, something like that. So it's something a little bit more creative. And we're also interested still in short-term rentals, but mostly we're just interested, I think, in building relationships. Oh, sorry, I thought I turned my phone off.
No, that's
Building
fine.
relationships. Again, we want to find people that are interested in being general partners with us, key partners, asset managers. In different deals, we all need different partners, and building a good team that when a deal does come around, whatever it is, that we have this team in place that we're ready to go on it. So looking for people that are interested in doing that and that can help us capital raise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I was
Mickey.
gonna say, kind of on that note, is probably one of my relative short-term objectives, at least for 24, is organizing a couple funds specifically to focus on what used to be our core business as we got started, which was people looking at doing wholesaling opportunities or fix and flip type stuff. Not wholesaling, fix and flip is what I meant. Sorry about that. But people looking to do that fix and flip or BRRRR strategy, and helping those people with that buying, analyze, rehab, but organizing some funds to offer as basically a hard money lender in those. And so that's something that we'll be looking at, bringing investors in for that, to more be equity solutions or private money solutions for those people, since we know that space pretty well. And then kind of the same things you'd mentioned in the short-term rentals, working with some people to do that same type of stuff in the short-term rentals, and then also the land development space. So I'll be working a lot on the fund setup piece. We have 3 different areas where we're really looking to grow that. And that's going to be, like she mentioned, partnering with good operators in those areas, and then talking with them, finding who's got the good deals. We may have some of those, that'd be great, but there's so many other good operators out there as well. And the more we get out and talk with them in this area, that area, whatever, there's going to be good opportunities. And then if we can pull our investors along to be a part of those opportunities, then we all benefit.
That's
and
exciting.
a place where they can park their money again, maybe right now while the interest rates aren't so good, they can park their money in this fund and put it to use as we put it to a flip, and within 6 months we get it back and we do another flip. But we can hopefully get enough in our funds where we've got, let's say, 10 going on at a time with different investors, and just a way to constantly be using your money over and over again that's not out there, and we're not having to pay interest on it, and you're just making money on it. So that would be the plan.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And specifically, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, Sherry, with respect to a lot of the buildings that they're building now, who's going to live in them, who's going to actually use them. I think I saw some number around about 15% of those buildings could be converted into multifamily. And so there is someone who was a previous podcast guest who put together a debt fund, similar to you all doing the whole wholesaling, who is going out purchasing distressed office. So there may be a partnership there, or at least a relationship, a conversation. You never know.
And if you can share his stuff after the call, that'd be great. Certainly look forward to syncing up with those guys.
Absolutely. Let's see. How do people get in contact with you and get involved with your REIA or your other organizations?
So my website is Aspire, ASPIRE, realtyteam.com. My REI group is called Impact, and you can find it on Meetup or Eventbrite, but the information is on my website. Our capital investment company is GorillaCapitalPartners.com. And the easiest number is 817-666-3336.
Pretty simple there
Yeah.
in terms of getting that contact information out. But listen, I want to say thank you so much, Mickey and Sherry, for coming in. Sherry, not Cherry, for coming on and sharing your vast amount of experience. I know that you're going to continue to help people crush it, into the next generation. We're going to do more than just survive to 25. I know we're going to thrive in 25. And again, thank you for being a part of that.
Well,
Thank you for having us.
We enjoyed it.
Absolutely.